I used to grip everything I loved a little too tightly. Jobs, relationships, even ordinary mornings. I clung, terrified that letting go meant losing myself completely. Change felt like a small death I couldn't survive. Then I learned something in a quiet Buddhist teaching that undid that fear entirely. Nothing beautiful ever grows without first falling apart. Today I want to share that one truth with you. At the end of spring, behind the monastery, there stood a single cherry tree. Its petals drifted down quietly, though there was no wind. The ground was already a carpet of pale pink. One disciple stood watching, his face full of a question. The blossoms still clung to the branches, so why were they falling at all? The disciple was a young monk in training. He approached his teacher and picked up a fallen petal. "This blossom was still beautiful," he said. "Why does it fall so soon? It could have stayed longer." The Buddha looked at the petal and asked quietly, "Which do you think is more pitiful? The flower before it falls or after?" The disciple thought a moment. "After, I suppose. Once it's fallen, it gets trampled and it rots." The Buddha shook his head. "Then look at this." He pointed to the far side of the tree, in the shade, where brown, shriveled blossoms still clung stubbornly to the branches. Those flowers never fell, they stayed. But are they beautiful? The disciple looked at the withered blossoms and fell silent. "Ugly," he finally said. "Why?" "Because they didn't fall when it was their time to fall." The Buddha smiled. "Exactly, a flower that falls gracefully, and a flower that clings to the branch. Which one has truly lived out its life as a flower?" The disciple looked again at the petal in his hand. It hadn't rotted. It simply looked like something that had quietly finished its work. What the cherry blossom teaches is this: change itself is not suffering. Everything shifts. Flowers, hearts, relationships, life itself. This is simply the way things are. Most people believe this change is the source of sorrow. But the pain isn't in the changing. It's in some quiet part of us insisting, "Please stay the same," that turns change into an ache. Remember those withered flowers still clinging to the branch. They weren't ugly because they fell. They were ugly because they refused to fall when their time came. The human heart wears the same groove, a rut worn by all our old shoulds. Youth should look a certain way, relationships should look a certain way, I should be a certain way. And without noticing, we walk that same rut again today. The more we walk it, the deeper it gets. And the deeper it gets, the more terrifying it feels to step outside it. So here's a question worth sitting with. Is the real you cling to actually some unchanging core? Or is it just the shape of a rut you've worn by walking the same path over and over? The self isn't fixed. It rises and takes shape differently depending on each moment, each relationship. The way the cherry tree stayed a cherry tree through bud, through bloom, through falling. This isn't a call to stop fearing change. It's simply that more often than not, it isn't change itself that hurts us. This shows up powerfully at work. When someone steps down from a title they've held for years, the real pain often isn't losing the position, it's losing the rut they'd mistaken for their identity. The title disappears, but the person doesn't. They're simply standing outside the rut, disoriented. The same thing happens in parenting. A child who was once small, one day lets go of a parent's hand and walks off alone. That moment should bring joy, but many parents feel a quiet grief instead. It isn't the child's growth that's sad, it's the parent still stuck in the rut of someone I need to protect. The child, like a cherry blossom, has already stepped into its next season. Aging makes this even clearer. The strength, the memory, the appearance of youth, as these fade, many people feel it as defeat. But it isn't defeat, it's a change of season. There was a time when the flower of youth bloomed. Now it's simply a different time, wearing a different shape. The tighter we grip the old rut, the more we end up denying who we are right now. When a blossom leaves its branch, is it losing something? Or is it simply moving into its next way of being? There's no easy answer. But one thing is certain. Outside the rut, there's a view we've never seen before. Here's something you can try today. In the quiet minutes before bed, as you look back on the day, ask yourself, was there something today I gripped tightly, insisting it should be a certain way? It doesn't matter whether an answer comes or not. Just asking the question is the first step toward noticing the rut. One more thing, go see a real cherry tree, even if it isn't blossom season. Leafy branches, bare branches, it doesn't matter. Just look at whatever season the tree is standing in right now. The tree never denies any of its seasons. Doing this won't necessarily make your fear of change disappear, but the hand that's been gripping so tightly might loosen. Just a little. That's something you can do. That version of yourself you can't let go of, the one you believe you should have been. What season's flower is it? Is it still on the branch? Or has it already returned to the earth? We first opened this door to impermanence in an earlier teaching, exploring why it isn't the problem we often assume it to be. You'll find that episode linked in the description below. A cherry blossom doesn't cling out of longing for its full bloom. It simply surrenders itself to the next season. Something inside you too is quietly moving toward its next shape. Don't carry sorrow into the future, and don't leave joy behind in the past. Place it all in the single breath, right here at the tip of the branch. That is the heart of impermanence the Buddha spoke of 2,500 years ago. Thank you as always for listening this far. Pause. Whose face came to mind while you were listening today? One story a day, place it gently in your heart. Whether it grows, you don't need to rush. At your own pace, slowly,